Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history, and welcome to another edition where we get to talk to our friend Timothy P. Brown of footballarchaeology.com. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren, good to chat. And I think we've got a couple of things to talk about this evening.
I think we do. You have a very interesting series that you have that comes up every now and again in your tidbits, and you call it the Factoid Feast. And that really is an interesting concept. Maybe you could explain a little bit about what your Factoid Feasts are before we get into some of the stories.
Yeah, so, I mean, just the nature of, when I'm researching whatever the topic of the day is, oftentimes I stumble across some other article, or, whether it's the adjoining article or within the article that I'm reading, something comes up that's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so, I have a way of saving all that kind of information. It's just little things that I store, some of which then later on turn into a tidbit or an article. But others are just like, yeah, it's just this one little thing, that it's worth letting people know that this happened, but
Hmm.
it doesn't, it doesn't warrant a full story. So I just kind of combine three of those into these factoid feasts. It's just dinky little things that came up. I thought they were kind of interesting, and so I thought I'd share them.
Hey,
That's the
it's every little pebble in the stream is important. So if we gather something out and we're entertained for a few minutes, that's a great thing. And I personally I love the factoid feasts. I think they're entertaining. They make you think a little bit at times, and you get three stories in one article. So
yeah.
I like that. So let's talk about your factoid feast number 7, where you had some really interesting posts on there. And the first one you had titled "When Football Went Online," which makes us sort of think of something modern, but
Yeah.
you can explain.
The other way around. So, one of the things I kind of get a kick out of is I've done a couple different stories about things like, it's just kind of how did they prepare the field, football fields back in the day, right? I mean, how do they mow the grass, right? I mean, really simple things, right?
I'm
I mean,
picturing a lot of billy goats or something.
well, no, yeah, there were sheep, grazing on a lot of football fields back in the day. Um, But, so it's things like, how did they level the field? Did they, it's just all the things, just like what constituted proper care and, well manicured fields back in the day. So, one of the things, and this is one I wasn't looking for, but, I was doing some other research and came across this image from a catalog, from,
And
you know,
folks, I got to stop you right now. You've got to pull up the link is in the show notes of whether you're watching the video or the podcast, and pull Tim's article up because this one is really eye-catching and kind of astounding. So please go on.
yeah. So it's like, so I came across this image from a, Spalding catalog showing a tool that dispensed white, chalk, probably lime in some cases back in the day. But basically, it kind of looked like a wheelbarrow, but instead of the barrow, it had a big barrel with a spigot, like a tap, stuck into it. And then if you turn the tap on, then it spilled onto a wheel, and then you push this thing along, and so by metering how much liquid this lime or chalk solution spilled onto the wheel, that would mark the field. So it's just this goofy looking thing, but it's a wooden barrel, so some cooper made the thing, and it's just like, it's just one of those things, like, I don't know, you're amazed, especially now with artificial turf where it's all painted in. And but back in the day, that's what they had to use. And I, in some other articles, I've shown like images of, like, they would only mark it every 10 yards just because either they ran out of chalk or they just didn't think it necessary to do it every 5 yards. Or there's other cases where, like, the chalk marks, I mean, the guy who was dispensing it either didn't have a string, helping him align it or was drunk. You know, it was one of the two, you know, because the lines are kind of all over the place.
But let's
Some
sit
of
there and
them
think about how hard that is. I mean, if those of us have dealt with
yeah,
a heavy wheelbarrow load and
yeah,
you're taking it across your yard, taking your landscaping, whatever, your mulch or whatever, trying to go in a straight line with that on one wheel and your two hands and your body, you know, as you're stepping, your body's going crooked. It's going all over the place. This thing, and and folks, if you're driving and can't look at the image, I will try to take it even more detail than what Tim said. It's got the spigot, and if this is it's a hand-drawn sketch because of the time. Photographs weren't probably used for this kind of advertising very often. But if it's anatomically correct, the spigot looks like it's about probably about a quarter of the way up the end of the barrel. So, you know, the lime or chalk or whatever's in there coming out, you're going to have quite a bit left in the barrel when when it stops coming out of the spigot. But it's got under the spigot is a sort of trough coming out, and then it spills into this looks like must be a grooved wheel, I'm assuming, like you said, and that so it pours off there and goes onto the line. So it's amazing. I can't get around. I want one. I hang on
yeah,
my wall or have my wife yell at me because it's sitting out in the yard or something because it's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could put geraniums in that thing. It'll look, you know,
yeah,
fabulous.
yeah. I'd put something football artifact in it. That's really neat. I'm sure probably none of them exist anymore. And this cost a whole $6 back in the day. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, what year was this from? This ad?
That was, you know, somewhere
18,
like
1883. I see it here, right
yeah,
in Ditson. Okay.
yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it actually at the time it was, you know, advertised as being for like tennis courts and things like that. But you know, they had to have used the same thing for football, right? Um, but anyways, I mean, it's just one of those things like, you know, I had never thought about, well, how did they lay lines out in the 1880s? But then I saw this thing, it's like, okay, well, that's how they did it, you know. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's an example of a factoid, right?
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a little thing there. There it is, but it's still pretty darn interesting.
Yeah. Definitely is. So, Tim, you have more than just the factoid feast in your tidbits. You talk just about anything in football history. Maybe you could share with folks how they can enjoy your tidbits.
Yeah, just go out to footballarchaeology.com, subscribe, and if you do that, then you'll get an email every time I release a new story. You'll get an email with the story embedded in that email. Um, you know, so that's the best way to do it. And then alternatively, you can follow me on the threads or on threads on Twitter uh, the um, or the Substack app. Substack app actually has some pretty cool features now. So, you know, that's worth taking a look at if, you know, if you read my stuff and or other Substack you
Yeah.
know, threads.
Mo- Most definitely. They communicate very well, and sometimes you get an email with everybody you follow on Substack, or a lot of times just what Tim's got coming out too. So it's a great device to get information. So, Tim, we really thank you for joining us and sharing this football history with us, and we'll love to talk to you again next week.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thank you.